Hey everyone, I'm Breeze. This is Summoner Wars, and today we're going to look at a certain matchup, the Phoenix Elves versus the Polar Dwarves. The Polar Dwarves are probably the favorite in this matchup, and I'm going to give you 4 reasons. Reason number 1, Guardians have 1 attack value. Their power doesn't work on structures. Reason number 2, the Ember Archer doesn't work on structures. Reason number 3, Maldaria's power doesn't work on structures. And reason number 4, direct damage is possible circumventing the effects of retribution through direct damage attacks like Ice Ram. Of course, that doesn't mean that the Phoenix Elves have no hope whatsoever in this matchup. They are still able to deliver high amounts of precise damage at very sudden times. You just have to be very careful, and you have to pick your times carefully, and you have to be set up right for it. As you can see here, early in this game, I took advantage of one of those abilities and tried to set myself up in the midfield. Really what I'm trying to do here is just prevent the advance as far as Fortress. The Phoenix Elves are not really a good faction in the midfield, and neither are the Polar Dwarves for that matter. But if I'm making trade-offs with the Polar Dwarves in the midfield, I know my Phoenix Elves aren't going to last very long. But I managed to accomplish the goal that I set out to do, which was I wanted to kind of mess with the Polar Dwarf formation and break it up. And as you can see, it's starting to look a little leaky here. That Frost Mage is going to want none of my Ember Mage, who's got retribution and can only do 1 damage to it. However, here's where Ice Ram comes in and completely circumvents that plan. Glacial Shift comes in, moves the Fortress forward, and is going to take out that Ember Mage and even do more damage to my Fire Beast. However, the Polar Dwarves have made a mistake here. They chose to move ahead and push their structure forward too fast, too soon. The ideal Polar Dwarf structure wants to be about a 3x3 square, and it wants to start in their zone, and it wants to stay there for the first little part of the game. When they make a push, and they will make a push, that's a big part of being the Polar Dwarves, is you set up a structure, and then later in the game, you blow that structure up and you use that Glacial Shift and use that Ice Ram to trap the enemy and put them in a very tight position. That didn't happen in this game. In this game, the Phoenix Elves moved ahead first, and then they were forced back. But in so doing, look at how messed up the Polar Dwarves' nice, tight structure is. It's not tight at all. And the next thing that's going to happen, the Phoenix Elves are going to duck and move sideways in their own zone and get out from under that structure. Those are the 2 things you need to do if you're going to beat the Polar Dwarves, really with any faction. You break up their structure, don't let them create a nice tight little structure in their own zone. And once that structure is broken up a little bit, you get out of the way. And then you're going to be able to pick them off slowly. And that's kind of what's happening here. I've got one more big turn left to show you before I move to a different game, to show you a different example of what I like the Polar Dwarf structure to look like. Here I'm just taking advantage of the Archer and the Fire Beast's powers augmented with Spirit of the Phoenix. Obviously, when you get a chance to get 2 Spirit of the Phoenix and use them in the same turn, they do stack. They do monstrous damage. Just imagine Finesha with Retribution plus Spirit of the Phoenix plus Spirit of the Phoenix plus her natural power. Nobody's going to want to touch her. Now, obviously, it's rare. This is that other game I was telling you about. Here you can see a very different Polar Dwarf structure. Once again, the Phoenix Elves tried to take the midfield, but my Polar Dwarves let them. And they created this nice tight little structure collapsing into their zone. I'm looking for that 3x3 square. Usually you're going to find that square kind of stuck to the one side because that's where the frost mage and the ice golem start. This can be a problem if the other opponent decides to go sideways on you, because where's your frost mage right now? Your frost mage is buried up against the edge of the board. It would be better to have that frost mage in the middle. It would also be better to have that parapet in the corner of the structure, because then you could shoot through it from two directions. As it happens, it's not perfect. It's a work in progress in flight engineering, but I just want to show you what that structure looks like. The next thing that's going to happen in this game is a glacial shift move that's going to trap those champs right up against their own walls. And once they're in that position, then I'm able to take them down with some bear cavalry and some ice ram and some ice golems. That's all I got for today.